Yo, 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 what is going on, CoD Familia? It is your boy BN, aka Mr. Kingdom Builder, and in today's video, we are going to be doing a deep dive breakdown and more of a developer conversation on can developers lose money and miss out on potential opportunities to make a lot more money in KvK groups, and do they care or not on relationships in the game that can very much heavily factor and have such a massive influence on their ability to make money with KvKs? Because in large part, if you think about it from a developer standpoint, the area that they're probably making the most amount of money in is probably from new kingdoms, because again, you have players that are looking to spend money and power up and try and be top dog, and then the KvKs. You're probably not going to be making the most amount of money from Season 2 and beyond in a home kingdom, right? Because really it's more maintenance and kind of sustainability from the players that are there. Sure, you might spend in the occasional SLE here and there if there's a particular event that you may need to, or Brink of War prepping for a KvK, but really it's home kingdom where you're leveling up. KvKs is probably number one, and then it's probably home kingdom and or Brink of War event, right? It's probably somewhere as a 1, 2, 3. And so it is almost imperative, of the utmost importance, that the KvKs are being matched and paired in a way that will allow, and will hopefully motivate players to want to fight a lot. And this isn't to say that people are going to go all in on a Zone 2, for an example, but the idea that you're going to have kind of this build-up where if we look at kind of the zones here for SOS, right, we know that Zone 2 opens up first, and then we have Zone 3 and then Zone 4. So the idea would be, if I'm in Zone 2, maybe you would expect 3 days or so of fighting. Zone 3, maybe you expect 5 days or so of fighting. Final Zone, maybe you expect 1 to 2 weeks of fighting, right? And again, I'm giving very rough, right, kind of wide open estimates or ranges. But this is just to give a very basic example of what you would almost kind of hope, like from a developer standpoint. This is what I would hope. I want to try to see fighting in arguably every zone. Now, we obviously know that in a lot of the KvKs, this just is not the case. In the Bellerin season map, there were multiple times. Let me see if I can give you guys an example, right? If we can go and look at a Bellerin map real quick. So, and this is, I think, this is the modified. Let's go season 2. Oh, actually, we can already look at it here. So yeah, hang on. Let's see if we can look at it here. Oh, it automatically just puts me. Oh, it's because there's no group. Oh, dang. Okay, rough life. Okay, well, let's use Bellerin season 2 because it's basically Bellerin season 1, but just with some adjustments to Final Zone and a few others. So if we look at the map. Before, there actually used to be 6 Zone 1s. I think now 1, 2, 3. Oh, maybe there still is 1, 2, 3. But anyways, Final Zone was mainly the big adjustment there. The idea here is that this is very much kind of a west and east side KvK map. So what we ended up seeing when Bellerin was first introduced, going into Season 2, is we saw that there was a split between unions and groups. You would have kingdoms that would ally, and they would opt to either go on the west side or the east side. Now, most did this, not everyone did. But the challenge here is that when you did this, basically you had to wait all the way until Zone 3 statue before you saw any potential action. And again, keep in mind, you're only having 1 legion go in from each player, from each side, and depending on how many of the active alliances are going in to statue. But really, the crescendo and the main primary first fight is going to be in the Final Zone. So you kind of have to think about how long groups are waiting to actually fight. Now, of course, there are some other examples, right? If you remember, like the GGTA situation where they ended up kind of fighting here. I think this is more Brez and Doolins on this side. So they ended up fighting kind of Zone 3 more Brez, where they were kind of not only fighting them from the back, but also fighting TA from the front. And I think it was like Owl and some others. I'm probably getting some of the alliances mixed up. But there were some KvKs that ended up fighting in Zone 3. I think NA, NW, where they were going, I think it was Owl actually on this side and the other group, and maybe it was BXS or another, right? So there was like 2 KvKs in Bellerin where you did see, and again, I'm sure there's more, but then a number of others, and this was actually more, I would say the majority, more than half, did not fight until the Final Zone. And so, then you look at the Season of Strife map, and you start to look and say, okay, well, at least for this KvK, and this obviously isn't every single one. I wish they didn't put this limit for like level 16 accounts to go in, because I would love to go into each of these KvKs and look at what every alliance's merits were before each of the zones opened, and then just kind of look at how much fighting happened in each of the zones, and then obviously, kind of do whatever those plus gains are for each of the alliances that participating in fighting per each zone, so we can kind of get an accurate estimate on like how much fighting did each KvK produce based on the matchups, and like really do this kind of historical relationship analysis on like why did they opt to ally this way based on the allies and the groups that they decided to go with. This is how much PvP and merits that were gained, right? And then you can maybe put some kind of dollar amount if you wanted, or some kind of value assignment that you wanted to put there, because to me, I just think that would be so fascinating to look at how much money, to an extent, right, is each KvK making or not. And then is there this kind of break-even point that we come up with? That, to me, would be really cool to see. But I have to believe, and I have to almost assume, or at least infer, that there very much is KvK, there very much are KvKs that I'm sure the developers and the company see as being productive, and financially productive at that, and then ones that probably are not. And it almost makes me think, okay, well, are they trying to design maps in a way that are going to get the most amount of PvP, where they're reducing the amount of downtime, but also not making it to where, you'd potentially would just PvP 24/7, like if it was just a big circle map, like Infinity Kingdom, right? And it was like a Infinity Kingdom, Home Kingdom, and it was just a big circle map, and you could basically just TP and go and attack anyone and everyone at any point in the day. And so I look at this map, and from the developer standpoint, this is what I wonder, is how much thought, how much care, if there is any at all, is being put into when we are pairing and when we're coming up with unions, or based on the system that they have, right? They're coming up with groups, and we're going to put this kingdom with this kingdom, or that kingdom with this kingdom, whether they're doing it manually or it's a system. How much care is there? And like I said, part of me feels like there probably isn't really any at all, and it's probably just more of like a numbers algorithm matchmaking process that they go through. And I say this because, again, if you look at this group, which is arguably the strongest KvK group in history so far, and it has the least amount of PvP thus far, right? At least until we have, I think, at least if it's recording this video, we're at probably about 2 days until the level 4 passes open. But then I have to wonder how much fighting is actually going to happen, because I very much can see this KvK just being a complete bust. And I hope it's not, mainly because I hope it's not for the players, because I think the players want to try and be able to fight at least for a while, / hopefully as long as possible. Because, and I'll always go back to this and refer to it, right? One of the most enjoyable and most engaging and spectator-friendly KvKs was that TFS No War fight that happened back in Bellerin Season 2. And for me, it was amazing. And I don't think anyone could really... I'm sorry, I think it was SB1, Bellerin Season 1. I was getting the number mixed up. And so that to me is gold standard. And so, when we see these pairings happening the way they are, and I very much I wish I had a lot more time, because I would love to go and do a deep dive and kind of do some of those things that I was talking about, where we kind of went through a lot of the KvKs and just look at the kind of post KvK assessment, kind of almost doing like a debrief on how did the KvK go, and just kind of looking at a lot of different data from different perspectives, because I think it could be very telling and very informative to, I'm sure the people that are playing, potentially the developers in the community. But you look at this situation and you say to yourself, well, okay, is this matchup, the best option on paper? It's not. We did the data for it. It's not the worst option on paper, but it's not the best option. And part of me wonders, well, what if they would have matched these groups or these kingdoms with different kingdoms to potentially allow for a better matchup to be made? But in order for something like that to happen, you would have had to know some of those inner workings, right? Some of those personal details and relationship details on the kingdoms, on who would be willing to work with who. And now, then you're kind of getting into this debate of, well, is that worth it from the developers? Should they even care about that? Right? Probably not. But it is one of those things where it's like, you're trying to set up a KvK that can be great, and you're trying to pair people up, as close as you can with whatever kind of algorithm and system they're doing, which, again, we have applauded them for improving the matchmaking algorithm, because it has been a lot better than what it was before, where they were doing top kingdoms, medium-powered kingdoms, and lower-powered kingdoms, and now they're very much matching you. And I believe part of that is because there's a lot more kingdoms now, so the kingdom pools are larger, right? This kingdom pool had 117 kingdoms. The next are 119. The next kingdom pool is going to have 147 kingdoms. So the more kingdoms that are in the same pool, you're going to be able to get closer kingdom matchmaking, where you have kingdoms that are all of similar power, potentially all of similar, maybe median average power, maybe amount of 100 mil pluses, etc. Right? You'll probably, I hope that you're going to try to keep refining the system to get it better and better. But it does beg the question on, okay, well, what are ways that you could maybe avoid situations like this, where because keep in mind, you could even have diplomacy that could just completely deteriorate when you're mid-talks, and you end up with potentially the same kind of a situation that we see now, or even worse situations where you have completely lopsided or disadvantageous pairings or unions for kingdoms that will ally with each other, and it's just totally... one side is just overwhelmingly going to win. They have all the power, and there's not really anything you can do about it. And, to me, it's always kind of about finding this happy medium in groups. And so when I think about potential solutions or alternative approaches for this, I think to myself, okay, well, what if they gave an option to where you could choose who you wanted to go in a group, right? Because I remember in Rock, they used to do this thing where, like, you could choose who you allied with, and like the light versus dark when that was initially coming out, and this was after they, I believe, were doing seedings, and they would kind of give you this A, B, C, D, and then you could join. You would have like a captain of a group, and I believe is how it was, and then you, as another kingdom, could join a particular group, and then they would either keep you or they would kick you from it. And, it's just you just trying to find your pairings, right, for who you're going to go up against. And part of me wonders if maybe even if it's not exactly that, but this idea of either having like captains or being able to have kingdoms kind of choose which groups they want to join in hopes of like finding fair matchups. And I say this because, and stay with me for a sec, I say this because if you are a kingdom and you're a king or queen of the kingdom, and you guys are, it basically gives you time to do all the data pulling, figure out, who we would want to work with if you had a pool of 150 or 200 kingdoms that you could choose to match with, and then who you're going to go up against. You could do all this data research and then figure out, okay, well, if we go and pair with these two kingdoms and then we go up against these three kingdoms, this is like as close to as great to as fair as it's going to be, and we know everyone's going to fight and everyone's going to work. Part of me almost wonders if that kind of a system, whether it is exactly that, but with the idea of trying to meet that conclusion, that result of we want to be able to choose who we're going to go in with, and we also want to know that who we're going to go up against is also going to be of similar power. Right now, whether that ends up being a 3v3, a 2v4 situation, a 3v5, whatever it is, right? Having that opportunity to kind of choose that, I wonder how that would work compared to them applying this kind of matchmaking system. Because it's funny when you think about, and I'll kind of end with this, is what if, and this is where for me it's almost like really having a level of care for every player in your alliance. Because in large parts, when you think about migration and new people coming in, most of the time the players, for the most part, don't really care too much about kind of the inner politics of alliances, nor the external politics of how certain alliances or management or leaders feel about other alliances, management, leadership, and or the alliance itself. And this is even more exaggerated when you think about having migrants that are coming in from other kingdoms and other alliances that have no idea, for the most part, right, on average, will probably not have any idea about your internal politics, external politics, any drama, relationship status between your group and anyone else out there. They're just coming in wanting to be a part of your group and fight with your group. And so imagine you're coming into a kingdom thinking, man, I'm coming here because I really want to fight and I want to have a great time and I want to put all my power, I want to put all my troops out there on the field, and I want to do it with this group. And then you come to find out that the matchup that you're in is very much factoring into why there is a lack of PvP thus far, and or could end up being very underperforming or lackluster in how the remaining of the KvK is determined or plays out, which that could very much happen in this group. And I say all of that to say, as a player, I'm curious. Like, I would really love to know if you're someone who is either in this group for SOS 1-3 or you're in another KvK group, and let's say you migrated. If you're someone who migrated into a kingdom, you wanted to go and join an alliance, and you're thinking, hey, I have high expectations now. I cannot wait for us to go out there and have a lot of PvP and just have a great KvK season, and then it ends up not being what you expected and not getting as much PvP as you thought you would, because of existing relationships between alliance and or kingdom management teams or leaders, where if maybe there was a new leader, and I'm not making it seem like, the people that are in leadership right now need to be kicked or anything. I'm just saying, if you're a new player coming in, and let's say, for example, later down the line, a new leader came in, and then you got the same matchups again, they may be willing to work with those alliances to get the best KvK that experience that they could for all of the players that are there. And so it's like I said, it's a fascinating topic to me because it really makes me wonder. So I would love to know what you guys think in the comments down below. That's going to do it for me. As always, until next time, we'll catch you later.